Alright, we're going to keep talking about parallel lines in those angle relationships, but we are going to define what those relationships mean a little bit. So go ahead and put the date on top. It's due either on Monday or Tuesday, depending if you are a red or blue day. So our first definition for today is the corresponding angles postulate. A postulate is just like a theorem, a law, a rule, anything that we accept to be true in math. So if you look over here, I drew these two dark arrows on my lines. That is a symbol for parallel lines. So because we see these, we know that these two lines are parallel. So our corresponding angles postulate says if two parallel lines are cut by a transversal, then corresponding angles are congruent. And I want to show you the symbol for congruent. It looks like our equal sign with a little squiggle over the top. So congruent is similar to equal. It means the same. It's used to show that two parts are the same in a relationship. So if we look at our angles over here, I'm going to color some of our corresponding angles. So angles 1 and 5 I've colored purple. Those are corresponding angles, and because of this postulate, they are congruent. If I grab another color here, I see that 4 is congruent to angle 8. Angle 3 is congruent to angle 7. And then last but not least, angle 2 is congruent to angle 6. So those are all of our corresponding angles in this diagram. Moving right along, we have our alternate exterior angles theorem. This is probably going to sound very familiar to what we just wrote, but this theorem says if two parallel lines are cut by a transversal, then alternate exterior angles are congruent. So basically, all these words are just saying the same thing that our previous one said, that if we have two parallel lines, I'm going to show you another symbol here for showing that lines are parallel. It's just a pair of arrows like that. Then all of our alternate exterior angles are congruent. So angle 4 is exterior and its alternate is angle 6. So those two are congruent. And then my other alternate exterior angles are angle 3 and angle 5, and those are congruent. Alright, we are going to continue with this trend. Slide that paper up a little bit. Probably going to roll your eyes at me, but you're going to recognize what we're writing here too, because all we're doing is switching to the alternate interior angles. So our definition is if two parallel lines are cut by a transversal, then alternate interior angles are congruent. So I am marking these parallel symbols on these lines for you because I want you to practice knowing what those symbols are. But on a test or anything, these symbols would already be marked because you would need to know that these two lines are parallel to be able to use this theorem. So let's go ahead and color those alternate interior angles. So angle 1 is congruent to angle 7. And then angle 2 is congruent to angle 8. Alright guys, we got one last theorem left. Our consecutive interior or same side interior angles theorem. This is going to sound familiar again, but there is a slight difference in this one, so pay attention. If two parallel lines are cut by a transversal, then consecutive interior angles are supplementary. This is the difference here, supplementary. Maybe put a box around that or something so you notice the difference here. So this theorem is saying that consecutive interior angles are supplementary. They are not congruent, they're supplementary, which means they equal 180 degrees. So if we look at that here, you can tell angle 1 is an obtuse angle, and its consecutive interior is angle 8. Those definitely are not the same because 8 is acute and 1 is obtuse, but we do know that 1 and 8 will equal 180 degrees if I add them together. And then our last pair is angle 2 and angle 7. And again, those equal 180 degrees. If I add them together, that is what supplementary means. Once you have all that written down, let's slide our paper to the bottom and list out a bunch of pairs of angles. Okay. Assume M is parallel to N. So I have line M and line N, and it's telling me they're parallel, so that means I'm good to go to use all these theorems. Answer the following questions. What pairs of angles are congruent? So if you look at the top of your paper, corresponding angles, alternate exterior, and alternate interior. All of those are going to be congruent because these lines are parallel. So I'm going to start with the alternate exterior. I'm going to write this here just so you can tell. Our alternate exterior are 5 and 3. You can color this, but it might get a little colorful, a little confusing. 5 and 3, and 6 and 4. Our alternate interior are also going to be congruent. So that is 1 and 7, and 2 and 8, and then our corresponding, let me grab another color, corresponding are also congruent. So corresponding is the position, the same position around each of the parallel lines on the transversal. So 5 and 1, 4 and 8, 3 and 7, and 2 and 6. So those symbols I just drew, these arc lines, if this angle has one arc line and so does this one, that tells us they're congruent. So the number of these arc lines is one way to denote which angles are congruent to each other. Alright, only one more thing to mark down here. What pairs of angles are supplementary? Those are our consecutive interior. So angle 1 plus angle 8, and angle 2 plus angle 7. Those are our supplementary pairs. We're going to get more creative with this piece in class about using some of these multiple relationships. But for now, this is all you needed to do. There are some algebra examples on the back that we will do in class, or you may try on your own. Have a great day, guys.